This video is going to show how to make a chipboard print. To make a chipboard print, you should start out with shapes that are fairly simple with not a whole lot of detail. We're going to start out because this is just two horses sort of floating in air. I wanted to give a little bit of ground. I want my final image to look more like a scene than just these two horses. So I traced these two shapes using transfer paper onto another piece of paper, and I added a ground. So this is basically how I want my final print to look. A scene with two horses in a field. So now my next step is to transfer or trace this image onto a plexiglass template, which will help us to align our print once we are ready to print it. So that way we could print it many times, and every time it'll come out the same way. So this is just the plexiglass, it's a flexible plexi that you just have to take off this film on the top of it. And the first thing you want to do is to grab a piece of paper that's the same size as the paper that you're going to print on, not the same size as your sketch necessarily. When I'm ready to print, I will be lining up this paper that I'm printing on with the tracing I'm about to do. So I want to try to center it a little bit, make it a little neater. And I'm just going to trace that edge. Try to get it as accurate as you can. Oops. Once I get that edge traced, I'm going to use a ruler to find the halfway point on the top of this box. What I'm going to make right now is called a T line, and I'm going to put it right in the middle. This box is 10 inches across, so at 5 inches I'm going to make an upside down T. On the bottom at 5 inches I'm going to make just a line right at 5 inches. When I'm ready to print, I'll do the same thing to my paper. I'll make a T on the top of my paper and a bar at the bottom. That way, when I'm ready to print, I'll be able to fit my paper right in that box, line up my T and my bar, and I'll always know that the paper is in the right place. So now that that's done, I'm going to take my sketch and put it underneath. It's okay if the sketch is smaller or bigger than the box I made for the paper, as long as I know that my image is going to fit within that box. So now I'm going to trace my sketch. By tracing the sketch, when we're ready to print, we can fit our chipboard shapes that we're going to cut shortly within our traced sketch, so that when we print on top of it, they'll be in the right place. Again, you should try to make this as accurate as you can, because it's going to give you a place to put your shapes when you're ready to print. So now I have my sketch of my horse, and it's full, and the field. And I have my T and my bar mark for alignment. Now it's time for me to set this aside. And I'm going to trace my shapes onto chipboard using transfer paper. It's a good idea to tape it down. And I'm going to tape my sketch just for now, just to get the grass shape down. And then I'll pick it up before I'm ready to trace my next shape. Each shape should be a fully enclosed shape, meaning even though this grass ends at the edge of my paper, I want to trace the edge of my paper as well. That way I know that I can cut the whole shape out and it'll fit very well within my sketch lines. I'm just tracing right along the edge. Oh, it looks like that's a little harder there. And because it's taped down, it shouldn't have shifted, so I just have to press a little harder. Okay, that one just needs to be brought over a little bit more. Okay, so there's that first shape. Now I'm going to untape it, and I'm just going to trace the fold. It's okay if your chipboard tracings don't look just like the sketch, because we're going to cut them out separately, and it's best if they have a little bit of space in between. So there's my foal, and now I'm going to trace the mommy horse. I want to make sure that I'm not going to trace over any of my other shapes. Looks like I'll be good. Now I'm going to trace her. I went a little far. I want to make sure that I trace that edge of where the foal is too. That way I'll know where the foal's head has to line up when I'm ready to print. See if I got all of it. Yep, I got a little hoof. Okay. Okay, so now I have my three shapes. It's a good idea to cut out sort of close to the shape before you try to cut it with X-Acto knife. It makes it easier to cut out when you only have a little bit of extra chipboard.